We're ready to start with our next keynote. I hope you had a good day. We apologize for the lack of food. We really didn't think that we have a full house given the snow, the blizzard, and all the arrangements. We're trying to arrange a good set of snacks for you after this. So again, a big sorry for that. I'll now invite Professor Kavanaugh of the Kennedy School to come on stage. He's been instrumental in helping us organize this keynote.
It's a great pleasure to introduce a friend and colleague and someone who I admire greatly, Bill Drayton. You know, at the Center for Leadership at Kennedy School, which is, I guess, one of the co-sponsors of this event, they talk about creating and training tri-sector athletes. And Bill Drayton is an unusual tri-sector athlete in that he created one of the sectors. But his story is one of having gone to Harvard College, and things seemed to work out for him despite that. Going to the Yale Law School, going to Oxford, working for McKinsey for the best part of a decade, working in the presidential campaign and the presidential transition, serving as the number 3 person in the Environmental Protection Agency as a presidential appointee. And then, after receiving the MacArthur Prize and teaching at both the Kennedy School and the Stanford Law School simultaneously, I might add, he founded Ashoka. And I think that I don't have to explain what Ashoka is to this audience. So I'll just leave one interesting piece of statistical data. So for the 2014 Nobel Prizes, the score at the moment is Harvard 0, Ashoka 2. With that, I am delighted to introduce truly the godfather of social enterprise, Bill Drayton. Thank you.
So I am just delighted to be back home and with the courageous people who are not afraid of the storm. We're at a moment of, I think, the most important transition in human organization ever. And we're just entering the tipping point. So up to now, for millennia, the game has been efficiency and repetition. So think assembly line, think block. But now the game is actually the opposite game. It's contributing to change. And that has very profound implications. You cause change, you bump the people around you, they bump, and so everyone is bumping everyone with greater and greater latitude as the breath moves and faster and faster. That is a completely different strategic environment. And it has huge implications for all of us. Do we have the skills to play this new game? Do we even know what the new leadership that's required is? Any organization where you lead or care about is it making the transition to a completely different way of organizing. This obviously has huge implications for the careers of everyone here. So I hope that I'll be able to contribute to making that a little bit more visible, and once you know what the playing field is, then you can play. First, a word about turning points. And all this comes as a surprise. You know, the old system has been going on for a long time, has a lot of inertia, and the place where it is most deeply rooted is in our own heads. Because we've been living in this old system, and all the neural pathways are organized to fit it. But it's a big mistake to miss a turning point. Think about Detroit. what, 50 years ago, it was the top of our technology and economics and pride, and you know where it is today. And I've just been told that 40% of what remains of the buildings in the city have to be torn down, which will cost $1 billion, because they're undercoverable. And that's only one symptom. Think about Darius and the Persian Empire, a superpower of its era. Well, they didn't pay attention to what was happening to those primitive Macedonians over there, beyond the primitive Greeks. And they were surprised, and that was the end of that. So the other side of this, of course, is it's very sweet when you capture a turning point. So the cold, wet, thinly populated British Isles captured the Industrial Revolution. They could pay the Russians and Austrians to keep fighting in Poland. And they could make them out pink. And think about our friends Sergey Brin and Larry Page. They caught a moment, and that was pretty sweet for them too. So my goal here is if we can all see the new game, then we can all play in it and contribute to the transition. That's a huge opportunity. So come back to this in a moment, but there are two things I want to do first. Answer the obvious question, well, what makes it possible for Ashoka to see this so clearly? Well, the single most important reason is that at the heart of Ashoka are 3,000 leading social entrepreneurs. And they're in every field, on every continent, and they're very powerful. So I'll just give you, just to make this more concrete, a quick story or two. Bright Simon in Ghana became aware that there were some surveys that were done that maybe 30 to 40% of the pharmaceuticals in Africa are fakes. Well, that has a pretty big impact on the health situation in the continent. And he noticed that people had cell phones and said, oh, phone system, pharmaceutical companies, cell phones, we can change this. And so you now can whip out your phone and check and see whether this thing you're about to buy is a fake or not. Mary Gordon in Canada, the roots of empathy. In this world we're going into, if you don't have empathy-based ethics, you're going to hurt people, you'll be marginalized, because rule-based ethics doesn't cut. So she's found a way of helping children, any children in any school, anywhere in the world, grasp this very complicated skill very quickly. And it trains on having a 2 or 4 month old child labeled a professor come at the beginning of the school year, comes every month, and the kids in the 1st or 3rd grade have to figure out what the professor is saying and then what the professor is feeling. The word schooling rates come down and stay down. She's in 26 countries, national policy in 2 plus Scotland. Well, those are 2 of 3,000 stories. Over half of the Ashoka Fellows have changed national policy within 5 years of launch. And 3/4 have changed the pattern in their field at the national level within the same 5 years. Now, how could we not see patterns with that being our core community? Once you see patterns, then it's pretty easy to make your way to new paradigms. And then how do we work together to make the new paradigm real? How do we entrepreneur together? So that's why this is relatively easy for us to see and why we're really engaged in this. The second preparatory thing, this is very important, is it's really helpful for us all to understand that there are 3 very different levels of impact. And each has measurements that are appropriate to it and not to the other 2. So at the first level, you have direct service. You do need a teacher in the classroom. You do need people to go and dig that well. And the measurements are pretty straightforward. How many wells, how deep, all that. You need The next level, which is where entrepreneurs start functioning, is about pattern change. And if you think about the stories I just told you, they're all about pattern change. And so the measures I just gave you are measures of pattern change. In what proportion have changed national policy within 5 years, etc. We have a problem that many scholars and even more people in foundations keep mixing these things up. And when you ask an entrepreneur to, quote, scale, meaning teach more kids, dig more wells, you are pulling the entrepreneur away from what they're really supposed to do, which is pattern change. This is not helpful, but it's very common. The third level, which is where the leverage is even greater, is in mindset change. And here the measures are again different. So think about the women's movement or the civil rights movement. Those are about mindset changes and the measures that are appropriate. Now, Ashoka set out when we started to create a mindset change in introducing the word and the concept of social entrepreneurship, which they had to make it up. And now, pretty much anywhere in the world, at least with people who are educated, people have in their heads the idea that, oh, well, no, I see a problem, I can solve it, I can organize. And not everyone is going to be very entrepreneurial, everyone can be a change maker. And as you'll see, that feeds into where we are now. Our most important task, and I think that's all of us, not just Ashoka, is to help the world see what the new game is. See that it's a game of change, not repetition. You have to organize differently, and you have to have different skills to do that. That is a really big mindset change, and that's 80% of our ability. So, with that backdrop, why we see it, how we see it, and those three levels, let's plunge into what is this new game. So first of all, here's what the old game was. Education and growing up was about mastering a body of knowledge and rules. And then the assumption was you would apply that for the rest of your life. You were trained as a baker or a banker, and then you would just be that forever. But in a world that, and of course, work was organized similarly, so that, okay, you were put in that position, and the presumption was you keep doing it. And so walls make sense. It's a completely coherent and actually reasonably efficient system. There's a problem, however, it is now failing. And the reason it's failing is since 1700, the rate of change has been escalating at an exponential rate. It's now moving very quickly. In 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll be moving much faster. And that's a fact. It's a mathematical fact. But there's another curve, which is its negative curve. And that is that the demand for people to do repetitive work is going down equally dramatically. And now it's intellectual repetition jobs, not just physical repetition jobs that are going away. So if you have a friend who thinks she's going to be a bank officer, you better warn her that that may not be an option. Our friends on Alibaba have a large lending operation. It has very good results in terms of repayment, speed of repayment, among the best in the country. Now, how many lending officers do you think they have? And how many supervisors of lending officers do you think they have? Well, think about your friendly local bank here. How many people do they have processing auto loans, etc.? Well, they have 0 lending officers, and therefore 0 supervisors of lending officers. How is it done? It's a self-correcting algorithm. You apply, it looks up all the data about you, and then it says, oh, this woman buys shaving cream and that's not like toothpaste every Tuesday morning. Regular person, okay. And if that doesn't work out so well, then the algorithm change and buying toothpaste on Tuesday morning isn't taken very seriously anymore. You know what's happening to truck drivers. The LiDAR system is, according to New Yorker, has removed 85% of what field archaeologists do. All right, so those are two curves. They're facts. No one's making them up. That's the reality of the world we're faced with. That creates a very different strategic environment for each of us and for every organization. So what is this environment? Everyone's bumping everyone else faster and faster with broader amplitude. Well, what does that mean for any organization, any human group? It means that you need everyone in your team to be observing the environment that they're in contact with, seeing the patterns and seeing opportunities. And then 1,000 eyes have to come together and quickly figure out, oh, there's a major new value creation. I keep hitting this thing. There's this big value creating opportunity over here. Oh, but by the way, this is a new value creating opportunity. So you're going to create a new team of teams. You're going to do a good job. You're going to have to draw people from wherever the right people are. In your organization, out of it, doesn't matter. All these old categories, business, social, etc. You've got to build the best team. And oh, by the way, the half-life of that value-creating opportunity is getting shorter and shorter as the rate of change accelerates. Oh, this is a very different environment. And it requires a completely different organizational model. In summary, fluid, no walls, open, drawing from everywhere, ideas, people, resources, access, team of teams. A team means everyone is a player. It's not someone tells everyone else what to do so that they can repeat together efficiently. Think about a basketball team. The ball, the ball comes to you. You have to know where all the other players are, who they are, understand the situation. There's no one there to tell you what to do. And you have to constantly be in the business of helping each of your team members, the team as a whole. Basketball is a relatively simple thing compared to what we're talking about. Now, this is not a chaos, it's just different. So some of the principles, every new goal has to be a team, singular, of teams, because the faster things move, all the pieces are moving, you need to be synapse entrepreneuring, in effect, new patterns. That brings us to the second thing. Of course, you need synapse entrepreneurs to constantly be designing new, not value-added chains, that's a really old idea, but value-added systems. Many different actors where the network effect is not like eBay, supply and demand, or most of the digital world, give them something, get information, sell it. This is a network effect of 10 or 15 or however many key actors. You've got to think that through. That's part of the different leadership that's needed. It's very powerful. There's no way the old model can compete with this model. But part of the challenge for everyone here is we're now inventing this, we're building it. It's not a mystery that Silicon Valley is an ecosystem that behaves this way. That Google is 3,000 small teams that come together in different ways and are open. And by the way, a self-driving truck is not the same thing as an information system. It's a different way of thinking and organizing. So I'm going to just give you an example. And this is something that Ashoka did partly for our learning and partly to demonstrate this. The Indian government says that there are 24.8 million missing housing units for informal sector workers in the state. That means you buy vegetables in the morning and sell them all day. You make a profit, you support your family. Well, those folks want and need a decent home. They can afford about 280 square feet. But there is a total market failure. Business can't serve either builders or finance agencies. They don't have any paperwork. And they need, who's giving the paperwork? And what neighborhood and what background? And they just don't understand this, they don't understand the politics. Well, the citizen sector is now in those communities, and it has trust, and it understands the politics, and it really wants to solve this problem. But they're lousy at real estate development, and they don't have access to mortgage money. So both sides, you have a market failure. Okay, so the moment you see walls like that, you should suspect that there is a big opportunity to tear the walls down. Remember that word fluid. And what you have to do, though, is you can't just tear the walls down. You have to build a new hybrid value creating system of all the pieces. So that's what we've done. And it works. The statistics are about a year old. I'll just move quickly enough to get them updated. But at that point in Ahmedabad, there were 4,700 units completed and 25,000 up to the land purchase area. And the thing had moved out to some 15 other cities. Now, a couple of months, 4 or 5 months ago, we finished our work. This thing is up and running. But we had to put in place the India Housing Council to certify the quality of buildings important for the lenders and the buyers, and to provide a backup for a new class of people who are replacing us, putting these combinations together of housing for all entrepreneurs. This is a $340 billion new market, assuming not one other person moves into the Indian cities, and forgetting the rest of the world. You talk about social enterprise. A lot of it, most of the discussion is about finding deals. This is about entrepreneuring fundamental new patterns. And that's where the real opportunity lies. Now, think about this again. We have done systems entrepreneuring, and there's a whole series of teams that are being put together. It's just, that's the model in many ways. I'll give you many other examples, but I want to shift quickly to the other thing that's really critical. In this world of fluid open teams, 1,000 eyes that got to think together, put together new teams of teams, make them work, you can't afford to have anyone on your team who doesn't play that game. You just can't afford it. Well, that means that everybody, and we mean everybody, must become a change maker. They have to have the skills to play this change-making game. This is very analogous to saying 150 years ago, as the rate of change started going up, society got more complicated. And at that point, we felt, oh, we need everybody to be literate in written language. And that was very radical. The Latin and Sanskrit speakers hated it, because it ended their monopoly on access to God. England, they did William Tinsdale mistake for publishing the Bible in English, and they grabbed him in Holland and burned him in the script. Well, we're at the next stage now, where for any society, any city, if this generation of children and young people don't have the skills to play this new game, that country, that city is going to be Detroit, and it will not take 50 years. So the new paradigm for growing up is every young child must master cognitive empathy-based life. And every young person, that means 11, 12 through 20, must be practicing being a change maker. That means empathy-based life, sophisticated teamwork, a radically different type of leadership, and change making. 4 learned, complicated, interconnected skills, and you can't do this by reading a book. You've got to do it. So I'm now going to tell you my favorite story of the last year. When it comes to very near where Shirley Metz, I was at lunch with several of Ashoka's youth ventures. This is young people in this age range who have had a dream or building a team of making their school or neighborhood change. And this very tiny young woman comes over and sits down next to me. She introduces herself and quickly says, I'm 12, because she's sick of people thinking she's 8. Oh, well, what is your venture? Well, my brother is autistic, and all through school I would cry, she made this gesture, when he was mistreated. But now we fixed it. Oh, how did you do that? We get together whenever we see a special student being mistreated. And we figure out how to intervene. And we do. We're very persistent. Now, I guarantee you, if everyone in this room who was there, who had heard this, would have felt, would know, would not have the slightest doubt that this woman has her power. She has her PhD in the most important skill she needs to be a change maker, and that is the game. And she's brought a whole bunch of other friends along with her, and she's contributed to changing the culture in the school. So I then asked her one other question. How many student groups are there in Shirley Middle School? She said over 50. Now, you know that it would be astonishing if 1% of the middle schools in this country or in the world had 50 student organizations. So what happened to her is that when she at 11 entered middle school, she had a problem. And she walked into an Everyone a Change Maker middle school, and everyone said to her, got a problem. Well, the obvious thing to do is think of a solution, build a team, make it happen, look around, that's the way it works. Because she went into an Everyone a Change Maker middle school, her life has changed. Now, what we need, what is essential, is that every middle and high school become an Everyone a Change Maker place, because that's the only way we're going to have a population that can live in an Everyone a Change Maker world. And we're not going to get there until we change the framework of thinking so people see this is the new game, and therefore my daughter must have this skill and she must be practicing. So, new game, organized differently, everyone's got to have different skills. And then you apply it to any subject matter or geography. What is the new paradigm for well-being or environment? Well, it has to fit this model. That really helps when you think about it. Is Metro Manila or Metro Boston going to be a city of the future, or is it going to be Detroit? You've got to make decisions right now today. You can't lose this generation of children and young people. And what progress are we making in having organizations become more like Google and less like the other 98%? All right, so that's the challenge and the opportunity. When you get to these turning points, it's amazing. So here are some of the implications. For anyone here, if you decide you're going to play in this game, the field is wide open, and it's going to be, it goes really quickly. When you get to the tipping point, and people start seeing it, and they see one another, and the press says, oh, you know, people really want stories about this. The tipping years are very fast. For civil rights in the U.S., it was 60 to 65. New York Times coverage went up 600%, and then went up after that 5-year period. So, do you want to be a player? Do you have the skills? Is the friend sitting next to you someone who can help get those skills? Is there a young person in your life that you want to make sure that person has the power of this 12-year-old from Shirley? Whatever organizations you're going to lead, are you going to help them see the new game and make a difficult transition? For the university, how can you have a business school teaching strategy, organization, leadership if you don't see the new game? When we talk about education reform, we're talking mainly about access to the old system. That doesn't help very much. We need legislation, that's not my point, but if you aren't playing the new game, if every young child in every neighborhood doesn't have a high level of empathy-based life, they are going to hurt people and they're not, and it's their fault, and it's their group's fault, which is why we're seeing prejudice going up. So we live at a wonderful historical turning point. It's a huge opportunity for all of us, and one of the reasons I'm so glad to be here is that this is exactly the group of people who can make a big difference. So thank you in advance.
Okay, I'll just shout really loud then. Well, thank you, Mr. Drayton, for this very inspiring talk. So I just wanted to start off with the audience Q&A. So these were sent through the Pigeonhole online tool. So the first question that had the most votes at 21 is, what is an avoidable mistake that you have seen social entrepreneurs make over and over again?
Well, one that just ties to what we've been saying is you are constantly being advised by people who are not entrepreneurs to behave in the old ways. You got to hire this type of person, you need managers, the entrepreneurs can't run things. And you end up creating an old type of organization and you become a minority. This is very painful. It doesn't lead anywhere. So, again, if you understand new game, new way of organizing, that new way of organizing needs people like you. You need change makers if you're going to have everyone a change maker, company, citizen group, whatever.
Thank you. The next question.
Just surprise people by a quick answer.
Can we have the next question, please?
Well, while this is going on, let me slip in a little thing here, which I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do, so I know this is illegitimate, but social enterprise, of course, is important. 53%, this is a couple of years old statistics, of what the citizen sector's income base is fee-for-service charging for them. So this is not a new idea, it's a really important element. There is something, the example I've given you about housing for all in India, that's entrepreneuring a whole new class where you've torn down the walls. It's finance, it's business, it's the citizen sector. The citizen sector, I didn't explain this well, so the citizen sector is all the retail market in the solution. Marketing, lending judgments, technical assistance, doctrines, the builders build, the financiers finance, and everyone wins. Well, that is different from what I'm concerned about in social entrepreneurship. Both of those are positive statements. Every 5, likely 7 or 8 to 10 years, people rediscover the idea, wouldn't it be cool if we made money while doing good? It says, oh yes, that's very attractive. And suddenly, lots of money comes in. And a lot of people in business say, wait, this makes me feel comfortable, it's business, this is not all this fuzzy stuff I don't understand, and because it's like me, it's better. So you have a certain self-righteousness backed up by money. Well, underlying, and we're talking about, what most people talk about is then you have to go out and find deals. This is a direct service model. It's not changing the pattern. So the underlying fact is that the deal flow of places where you can make money and do good is increasing. It is real, but it doesn't suddenly go up by 5-fold or 10-fold when this new enthusiasm comes. And so, and we're right down the middle of the enthusiasm. And so these people have a lot of leverage and they're taking money from elsewhere, so it's now in this new category to twist the arms of people who are not really social businesses. I said, look like a social business, behave like one so we can invest it. This is not healthy. And of course the returns go down and people slink away and they're embarrassed, and 5 years later the same thing happens again with a new name. So a lot of this is really valuable and good, but this wave effect is not healthy.
Thank you. This is a good transition into the next question, which is, what's the difference between a company that has a corporate responsibility initiative, CSR, and a company that has a social business model infrastructure? Are they both social enterprises?
The problem with both categories is they're just too broad. Companies that decide that they're going to make a social investment can do it in a very intelligent way. So, for example, we have been building a relationship for the last 3.5 years with Borger Ingelheim, which is a German family-owned private, in other words, pharmaceutical firm. And they have 128 years of classically German. We do research. It's a very good value system. They know that the world is changing. And so they came to us, and we've been learning how to do a partnership together. So they're supporting the launch of a good many Health for All, Ashoka fellows, and youth ventures like this young woman. Well, they're benefiting because they're getting access to all that body of knowledge. A growing and significant number of their most promising managers go on executive in residence with a health fellow, and they're being exposed to a heavy dose of entrepreneurship. They're learning about parts of the world and markets and entrepreneurship they'd never get, and they bring that back to the company. And we're doing more and more. Now those are some examples. Of course this is strategic for the company. It's strategic for us. This is, as you could call it, philanthropic investment by the company. It will have a profound impact. It will help them make the transition from one type of organization to the other. So I think that's really valuable. Now, of course, we all know lots of examples where CSR is some person who's been sidelined by the company, and really the decisions are made by the president who gives money to Harvard Business School and that rather than that's good. But well, that's good. So I'm very cautious about these categories. We just talked about social enterprise.
Okay, thank you. And this question by Angie is one that appears very often. How can a company adopt and support empathy-based ethics and show its value to stakeholders and investors?
This is great. Let me give you this is a real example that I'm going to disguise a bit because I'm told I have to. There's the owner of an extremely large hotel chain with vast numbers of people, totally organized in the old way. So it's Henry Ford applied to hotels. The chambermaid is not supposed to talk to people you put soap here and it's just one thing on the assembly line. Maybe 5, maybe 12 people out of 100,000 have a mandate to think, and as far as I can see, they mainly do real estate deals. I mean, slightly unkind, but not much. There's another company in the same industry that's much smaller. There, the CEO not only, this guy understands it, he just doesn't have, so far doesn't take any action. This other company, which is about 1 or 2% the size, is on this. And here is what they're doing. The owner wants, the CEO wants to be an everyone change maker company. His goal is to get 70 or 80% of his people to be change makers quickly. So now, if he has 800 change makers, and the giant over here has 5 to 12, and the games change, who are you going to bet on? Right, so here is what this company is doing. I haven't done this yet, but I hope we'll do it soon. And this is empathy related very directly. They are going in the places where they have hotels to start by hosting a meeting with the decision makers in schools, education, religious houses that have youth programs, whoever they think are the right people, and say, we're all going to change. Kids have to have this set of skills. If they don't, that's it for them. And our company really wants to help this community make that transition. And we can bring you the Ashoka community, we can bring you the Ashoka fellows who work in this area. And here is, and we're going to encourage all our employees to work with you on this. So then, imagine they have 6 months. Guests come to the hotel, there's a package in their room, along with the Bible or whatever else they're handing out. And it says, this is really important for your kids. You may want it for your own community, take it away if you want. And if you want to learn more, here's what's going on in this community, and here are visiting opportunities, and here's the list of people in the hotel who are actually working with the school or that church or whatever. Here's what they're doing, and here's their numbers. Call them and talk to them. This is not costing the company a lot. It's the worst. I mean, it's really good marketing. But they are helping their employees understand that the game has changed and this is what's valued. Now, in addition to that, they're asking their employees, they're saying, the most valuable thing you can do is spot an opportunity where we as a company can provide more value. Now, this is something that I took to them. We went to Condé Nast. Condé Nast Traveler, they hear about the travel industry and all those ads, they have conferences, etc. So they have really good statistics about travel. And one of the statistics I totally loved was that 54% of U.S. travelers would consider their prime vacation being for social service and learning, and 24% would like that. Now, if you have 800 people in your company and they're looking for new ways, just think what you could do with it. And then, of course, you have to constantly evolve it and apply it. Well, this would work for the kids and so on. So I'm just giving you a concrete example. In the empathy context, this company is doing something fundamentally important for the communities where it's in, fundamentally important for the country. At the same time, they're transforming their employees into change makers, their culture into a change-making culture. Now, which company do you think the change maker is going to choose to go and work in? It's obvious. So a virtuous cycle is being set up over here, and this is not good for over here. You start doing these things, and guess what? People are going to want to go to this hotel where occupancy rate's going to go up, and their return on investment's going to go up, and they're going to start growing. And at some point, this suddenly becomes a real threat to the old dynasty. And that is going to happen in every industry.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, it seems that we've run out of time, but I'd like to thank you so much for your talk and answering our questions.